there was talk on building a bridge, and they opted to buy ferries. And memory serves me right, there was one insurance company that took them to the Kenya ferries to court and said, the ferries that you're building are substandard. And somehow the whole thing was ignored. So security on the ferries is very questionable. We had the Mutongwe in 1994. And you can imagine that was the worst in Kenya. We're not talking about even in Lake Victoria. We have ferries there. So maritime security is very low in this country, and something needs to get done. The Minister of Transport should reconsider this service and think about a long-term project, a bridge. San Francisco, they put a bridge in the 19th century. Why can't we do the same? Yeah, we are now in the 21st century. Yeah. Okay.
Peter, I'd like you to come in at that point. Byron asked why were people just standing by, shooting videos, taking pictures. Lucy says, you know, if you're not a strong swimmer, the best thing you can do is stay on board. Are you a strong swimmer?
Myself? No,
yes.
no,
okay.
I wouldn't call myself
so you agree with Lucy?
Swimmer. Yes, I do, absolutely. I agree with Lucy that as a bystander, if at all you're aware that you're not capable of swimming to a certain level, or even at all, you're not supposed to engage yourself in anything that puts your life in danger and compromise.
But what would you have done in that situation?
You see, the concern is you can't put yourself at danger at the expense of trying to save someone else. Your life is always your first priority. So we have agencies in place who are supposed to take up that task.
So then we come back to the Kenya Ferry services.
Yeah, that is what we are questioning now about the Kenya Ferry service preparedness and ability to respond to tragedy when it hits. Because Kenya Ferry service has been there for a very long time. It's been operating in the region for very many years. They have well understanding and in-depth knowledge of the waters around the area, the depth. They know, like Byron mentioned, about 360,000 people use the ferry service every single day. That is a very large number of people to consider not putting up enough measures to ensure they are safe while they're using the service. So personally, I feel there's a lot of laxity in terms of how we implement and adopt measures. I'm sure they have a standard operating procedure on how safety should be undertaken around the area, but the problem boils down to how we implement those safety procedures. Because like the issue of the ramp, of course we've seen even right now, as your reporter was reporting, ferries are still operating and the ramps are still not raised.
Yeah, MV Harambe, which was involved in that incident, MV Kilindini, MV Nyayo, which have been in operation for more than 30 years, have the system that's operating their prows dysfunctional.
Yeah. Yes, it raises a lot of questions, because if you understand that there are passengers on board, there's property on board, and the ramp is supposed to be raised, I don't think by any standard that standard operating procedure says the ramp should not be raised. It's there for a purpose. Taking into account that issue that happened, the vehicle reversed into the water. I'm assuming if, like Byron said, the ramp was raised to that degree which is required, maybe the ramp will have come in place to at least prevent the vehicle from reversing into the water. So it raises a lot of questions in terms of laxity and responsibility in terms of the agency. But also, we can't just blame the agency, even the people who use the service. If you're on board the ferry, you need to be aware of your basic safety. You need to understand that if I do this, it's dangerous. The ferry was moving, so ideally there should be no movement within the ferry, even passengers being on board their cars or even
that has come up.
The engines running, such kind of things.
Is it in law that the passengers and the drivers are meant to disembark their vehicles, or is it just standard procedure?
There's loads and loads of standard procedure. If anything, in this country, we are not, impacted by all these threats and manifest risks because we are lacking in laws and regulations or policies or procedures. That's neither here nor there. It doesn't hold us to any close scrutiny if you are to simply get very simplistic about lack of regulations or sufficient laws. Those are there. But the bad news, and let me very quickly clarify on the bystander effect. The bystander effect has nothing to do with but the bystanders themselves. It has everything to do with diffusion, responsibility, and ambiguity in the way people, organizations or people interpret what their businesses are. So in which case this was in reference to the Kenya, ferry services. Everybody else was watching this space, perhaps even themselves, perhaps even the divers that they're talking about who are on the part of the Kenya Ports Authority, who they say are the first line responders to them. In their case, Mr. Gowa says he only provides, in terms of disaster response, he only provides onboard guards and firefighting equipment. Yes. I mean, if you were to do a thorough risk assessment or analysis for that matter, and then craft mitigation measures to settle into that space, I don't think fire is as bad a disaster if you were to have a look at a realistic picture of the reality for a Kenya ferry services that transiting people between one place to another on a channel that's 80 meters deep. It's not as much. Your immediate threat that would be very catastrophic could be people plunging into the water and having no rescue in place. So that in itself is reflective of, and it's one of the things that would add to the disadvantages of the bystander effect. Kitty Genovese in 1964 did produce a research finding that was done by Babe Platney and John Daly in 1969, and they did it across the board of a wide range of students, body of university students, and they did find out that with ambiguity and diffusion responsibility, everybody's efforts or compulsion to take action diminish, become less and less with any additional number of people that are watching that space. So in a sense, everybody could be looking at that space. Kenya Ports Authority, Kenya Ferry Services, everybody else, and think, hey, someone else is going to take action. And at the end of the day, we are 48 hours later, and no proper action or exacting action has been taken.
Okay.
It's not about the people jumping into the, the water. It's not at all. So that's the bystander effect.
All right.
Now,
and I'll come back to you. I just want to add one more voice to the conversation. We're now joined by Pius Masai Mwachi in Kisumu County, and he is with Oko Kusa. Oko, I hand over to you. All right. Okay, Pius, I hear it's just yourself and myself. So a lot of questions, you've raised these questions yourself, Mr. Masai, on Facebook. The question of the ramp, the question of there being no lifeguards on board, the question of just there being a speedboat that can access the site of the, I don't want to call it a drowning yet, but the position on the water where the unfortunate incident happened. Do you think there was laxity on the part of the Kenya Ferry Services?
Actually, my colleagues, I appreciate that you approach these discussions live, and I want to put it clear to every person listening to me that it's unfortunate that we have lost lives where it shouldn't have happened, because first of all, we need what we call all hazard plans and emergency plans and standard operating procedures. You